Thank you for tuning in to the Voice of Adventure. Today we will continue our journey with Thaddeus and his party in The Battle in Darkness, Part 1. Sent by their king to learn of this power the Dark King possesses, Thaddeus and his party camped inside the Dark King's lands. After some fireside tales, they are now ready to continue their journey and learn of the Dark King's power. The desolate landscape spread out to the horizon around them. What used to be fields of wheat and corn were now empty, brown canvas. The few rivers they passed were drying up, only ankle deep now. The sparse trees fared no better. Their stark white trunks resembled skeletons of life long past. Not a single leaf could be found. As Thaddeus and his party continued traveling, the devastation continued. Houses left abandoned, with roofs caved in, walls full of cracks and holes, and windows and doors broken or left ajar. The dirt roads they traveled were almost indistinguishable from their surrounding landscape. No signs of life could be found in any village they passed through. Not even forest animals took up residence in the abandoned villages. The whole land looked like its life was sucked out, leaving only the remnants of what used to live there. After a couple restless days, the party saw an imposing dark castle in the distance. They crested a hill and saw a large city spread out around the dark castle. They had finally reached the city, where the Dark King resided. The party could just barely make out movements around the main gate, where lines of people stood waiting. "We made it, and there are people, actual people," Lyra said, surprised. In the days they spent traveling through the Dark King's land, they hadn't encountered a single soul. Lyra had begun to wonder if anyone lived in this land anymore. Now, the difficult task begins. Turning to the party, Thaddeus continued, "Here's the plan. We make our way into the city, blending in as travelers as best we can. Next, we find a place to rest and start gathering information about the Dark King and his plans. No one can know our true objective. We need to stay invisible. If the Dark King finds out we are here, our king's plan will be ruined." "We took down a dragon. Getting information about an evil king will be a piece of cake," Rowan chimed in. "The king won't know what hit him," Sarah added. "Something still feels off and ominous about this country," Lyra said, feeling that something was about to go wrong. "But we are all here together, and there's nothing we can't do." Leaving their horse and wagon as that would draw attention, the party made their way to the gates of the city, using their cloaks to blend in as best they could. A long line of people queued in front of the gates, waiting for the guards to allow them passage. There was close to 50 guards at the gate, with 10 of them conducting inspections, thoroughly inspecting each person before allowing them entrance. They checked under every carriage and wagon, moved boxes and food, and patted every person down to their boots. They pestered everyone with seemingly endless questions, but nothing was getting past them unless they said so. Status also appeared not to matter to them, as they had peasants, businessmen, and royal officials queuing, and everyone who tried to skip the line was apprehended by at least 5 guards. Nervously, Thaddeus and his party got in line, hoping not to get caught before even entering the city. On their journey, they had practiced their story, to keep it consistent between the 4 of them. "We are travelers from the east. We are just passing through and want a place to lay our heads for a few nights," Thaddeus reminded himself, sweat dripping from his face as he was finally called for inspections. The guards talked to each of the party members separately, asking questions like, "What brings you here? How long will you be staying? And, do you have any weapons on you?" Thaddeus cautiously said yes and pulled out the sword and daggers he carried. After inspecting them, the guard said, "Okay, you're good to go." Then he immediately turned to the next person. A wave of relief washed over Thaddeus as he grabbed his daggers and sheathed his sword, and walked through the gates. Lyra and Sarah were already inside, which sent another wave of relief over Thaddeus. But when he walked up to them, he noticed that Rowan wasn't there yet. Thaddeus turned back and saw him talking to one of the inspection guards, pulling out his weapons. First, Rowan pulled the axe off his back, then his 2 swords from their sheaths on his waist. Next were the 2 daggers he kept on the back of his belt, followed by the 4 daggers he apparently kept in his boots, and an additional 2 daggers he had up his sleeves. Miraculously, even with all those hidden weapons, he was let through. Walking up to the party, Rowan saw the bewilderment on their faces. He quickly turned towards the gate before asking, "What's with the looks? Is something interesting happening at the gate?" "No, Rowan, it's not the gate we're staring at. It was you," Sarah stated. "Why do you have so many hidden knives?" "What do you mean? I only have 8, Rowan defended. "Are you telling me you don't bring at least 8 knives with you everywhere? If anything, I'm packing light with only 8 knives." "No, like normal people, we only have a couple," Sarah retorted. "What kind of people are you, not having a sufficient amount of knives?" Rowan declared. "What if you used the few you had and needed more? What would you do then?" "Enough," Thaddeus interjected. "Rowan, that is a lot of knives, but we need to find a place to stay and something to eat. So let's get back on track and find an inn." Thaddeus noticed Lyra was scanning the area, staring at the merchants and citizens of the city. "Lyra, what's wrong?" "Do you not feel their gazes? Most of the people in the city are staring at us." "Probably because someone had too many knives on him," Sarah jeered. "No, that's not it," Lyra said, looking scared. "This is different. They're looking at us like pests. It's almost like they know who we are and what we're here to do." Sure enough, as the party looked around, all eyes were on them. Every resident, guard, and merchant stared blankly at them. Thaddeus quickly steered their group down a few random roads and alleys, trying to get away from all the attention. But no matter how far they went or how many streets they crossed, everyone in the city had their eyes on the party, making them feel uneasy. Thaddeus began to lead his party back to the main gate, planning on calling off their mission, when they were suddenly surrounded by 40 palace guards. Lyra desperately looked for an escape, while Rowan pulled his axe off his back. Thaddeus drew his sword and Sarah notched an arrow. But before a battle could commence, a gentleman in black robes and a purple cloak emerged from behind the guards. Pulling down his hood, he spoke with a soft, kind voice. "There's no need for violence. You are our guest. Please allow me to welcome you to my humble kingdom." He bowed respectfully. "I'm King Galat, and I know why you're here. But let's discuss this in my castle. Come, food has been prepared for your arrival." The guards blocked any option of escape. Without any other option, Thaddeus sheathed his sword and instructed his party to do the same. They followed the king to his castle, which upon closer inspection wasn't naturally black. Large, thick vines stuck to the side of the castle, pulsing with a dark purple power. They spread a gooey, oozing liquid across the gray stone of the castle, causing it to appear black from a distance. As the party entered the castle's main gate, they saw the vines encroaching on the walls, slowly stretching out their thin tendrils to the surrounding city. The party was led through the dark castle and into the dining room, where the table was filled with exotic foods, the likes of which they had never seen. There were hairy and spiky fruits, strange light brown bars that appeared to be slowly melting, and striped meat. King Galat took a seat at the head of the table. "Please, sit and enjoy a meal with me." They didn't move. The party stood just inside the door, staring at the king and the table of food. The king eagerly devoured handfuls of food, dumping them onto his plate and into his mouth. His kingly appearance faltered while he ate. After a few minutes, he looked at the party who had not yet moved and said, "Join me," motioning to the empty plates of the table. But when no one moved, he waved his hand at his guards, and they suddenly drew their swords, forcing Thaddeus and his party to sit. "There. Now you all can enjoy this food with me." King Galat scarfed down a few more plates of food before sighing with satisfaction. Thaddeus and his party made no moves for the food. Even though the king was eating it, they couldn't risk the potential dangers that would come with eating the unknown food. But it looked so appetizing. The fruits were ripe and juicy, the melting brown bar looked sweet and tasty, and the striped meat had an aroma that made your mouth water. The party strengthened their resolve. No matter how hungry they were, or how good this food looked, they would not even touch a single bite. "You know, it is often seen as rude to not eat what is provided to you, especially by a king," King Galat said. "There's no need to worry about the food. It's not poisoned, as you can see." The king motioned to all the plates of food he devoured. "It is safe to eat, but I guess you won't believe my words. So on to business, then." King Galat wiped his mouth on his napkin and leaned forward, putting his elbows on the table. "You all were instructed to investigate my kingdom and the dark power at my command, were you not?" Thaddeus slowly nodded, shocked that the king knew the reason they were in the country. He wondered if the eyes they had felt in the forest were because of this dark power. Could the king have been spying on them since they entered this land? "But seeing as you only just arrived here, I assume you haven't learned anything helpful yet." The party sat in silence, confirming the king's suspicions. "Well, it is no secret that I have learned to harness powers from beyond this world. I discovered this a few years back, by accident. But you can't begin to fathom what these powers allow me to do. I was given life beyond my years, strength beyond my body, and wisdom beyond my old feeble mind. With this power I am able to toy with the very nature of this world." At this, King Galat raised his hands, and everything on the table levitated up into the air. Plates full of food spun around, not dropping a scrap. Silverware floated by, narrowly missing the party. The king twirled his hands as if directing the floating food. In response, they flew around the room, dancing along the walls. The king grinned, pleased with his display, before setting his hands on the table and returning everything to where it was. "This is only the beginning of what we can do with this power. All the food you've refused to eat was created with this power in mere moments. Harnessing this power, I no longer need farms to provide for my people. I am able to give them all the food they desire by simply willing it into existence." To show off this power, King Galat waved his hands, and a slice of cake appeared in front of each of them. Pushing the cake away, Thaddeus asked, "Why show us all this? Why give us a grand display of your powers when we are here to learn about this power and report back to our king?" "Simple," King Galat said, standing up. "I want you all to join me." He walked to the window as the party sat shocked. Join him? Does he think we will bend our knee to his power? You are probably wondering why I would invite you all. The king who sent you all here is being misled. He thinks this power is something to fear, but it's actually our salvation. For so long we have been reliant on this world to provide for us. Although food does replenish, it depends on the world to provide what it needs for growth. And if we have a drought, then the farms are useless. They can't provide us anything without first being provided for. But this power is different. It doesn't require anything, but it gives everything. King Galat returned to the head of the table and slapped his hands onto it. But in order for this power to spread to the whole world, we need more people willing to accept it. "Why us?" Sarah asked. Don't you have plenty of people capable of accepting this power in your kingdom? Yes, there are plenty of people who could take this power, but they are not trusted like you. You all have traveled to almost every country on this continent and slayed great beasts, saving villages, towns, and kingdoms. When people see you, they are put at ease knowing of your prowess. And this power being something they have never seen is scary. But if you all, who are trusted, take it to them, they will be more willing to accept it. King Alot paused, letting his words soak into their minds. So what do you say? When you join me in taking this great power to every corner of this world? The party sat silent for a long minute. On paper, his proposal looked incredible. The ability to shape the world around you and to create anything you need. It would completely change the world, but it felt too good to be true. What truly was this power that was willing to give endlessly, without needing anything? Could this power actually be safe to use? Thaddeus asked himself. There is a price, Lyra said, breaking the silence. No, I assure you, there is no price, as you say. I have been using this power for years, and nothing but good has come of it. Have you looked out at your kingdom? Lyra raised her voice, motioning to the windows. The land is dying. Your farms have been replaced with dirt. Animals are being massacred in your forests, and this food is probably poisoning your mind. It is making you blind to the truth. King Alot looked hurt at this accusation. How dare you? You are guests in my realm. I graciously offer you all a path towards a brighter future, and you dare accuse me of being poisoned by the power that will save us? I thought that we could come to an understanding. I thought you would see how this power could change the world for the better. But now I see you have been blinded by the other kings. They have closed your eyes to see the possibilities. King Alot sat down for a second before continuing. I guess you'd leave me no choice. Since you won't join me, I will have to end you here. The king snapped his fingers. The food, plates, silverware, and tables suddenly vanished. The party jumped out of their chairs and drew their weapons. King Alot floated out of his chair, levitating a few inches off the ground. He snapped his fingers again, and suddenly the world turned black. The wall, ceiling, and floor disappeared in the darkness. The party and the king were the only things visible now. Everyone remained still, weapons at the ready, waiting for someone else to make the first move. A few minutes passed, and still no one moved. King Alot raised his hands and summoned warriors out of the darkness. Hundreds of them, clad in armor, surrounded the party. With his back against his allies, Thaddeus said, Let's make him regret trapping us in here. With a nod, then a shout, the party broke apart, swiftly striking down the first of the Shadow Warriors. Thank you for listening to The Voice of Adventure. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to follow wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also keep up with the stories and see extra content on Instagram at Josiah the Author. Be sure to tune in next month as we finish Thaddeus and his party's story. See you in the next story.